Imagine embarking on a cross-country road trip. You wouldn't just hop in your car and start driving aimlessly, would you? You'd plan your route, choose your mode of transportation, and pack accordingly. Similarly, in research, your methodology is your roadmap. It outlines the path you'll take to answer your research question. Chapter 3 of your thesis, dedicated to research methodology, is not just a formality, it's the heart of your research, showcasing your credibility as a researcher. This chapter convinces your readers that your approach is robust, reliable, and capable of answering your research question. Think of it as the behind the scenes of a movie. The audience sees the final product, but they don't see the meticulous planning, filming, and editing that went into it. Chapter 3 reveals the how behind your research, allowing readers to understand and evaluate your process. A well-structured Chapter 3 not only lends credibility to your findings, but also allows others to replicate or build upon your research. It's about transparency, rigor, and ensuring your research stands on solid ground. Just as an architect uses blueprints to design a building, researchers use research designs to structure their studies. This section of Chapter 3 details the type of research you conducted and why you chose it. Were you looking for relationships between variables, like in a correlational design? Did you aim to explore a phenomenon in depth, as with a qualitative design? Or perhaps you wanted to test a specific intervention, which would be an experimental design? Let's say your research question is, does playing video games affect the attention span of teenagers? A suitable design could be a correlational study. This design helps you investigate if there's a relationship between the time spent playing video games and attention span without implying causation. Clearly state your chosen design and justify your choice. Explain why it's the most suitable approach to answer your research question and address your research objectives. This section acts as a bridge connecting your research question to the methods you used. It provides readers with a clear understanding of your research's overall structure and direction. Now that you've laid out your blueprint, it's time to gather the building blocks of your research data. This section outlines how you collected the information needed to answer your research question. Did you use surveys, interviews, experiments, or existing data sets? Each method has its strengths and limitations. For instance, surveys can collect data from a large population but might lack depth, while interviews provide rich insights but can be time-consuming. Returning to our video game example, you could use a combination of surveys to gather quantitative data on gaming habits and interviews to explore individual experiences and perceptions for a richer understanding. Describe your data collection instruments in detail. If you used a survey, include a copy in the appendix. If you conducted interviews, explain how you developed your interview guide and how you ensured consistency across interviews. Transparency is key here. By clearly outlining your data collection methods, you allow readers to assess the reliability and validity of your findings. Data analysis is where you weave the threads of your collected information into meaningful patterns and insights. This section explains how you made sense of the data and what tools or techniques you employed. If you used quantitative data, you might have used statistical software like SPSS to run tests like t-tests or ANOVA, depending on your research question. For qualitative data, you might have used thematic analysis to identify recurring themes and patterns in your data. Continuing with our example, after collecting data on gaming habits and attention spans, you might use correlation analysis to determine the relationship between these two variables. Explain your analysis techniques in detail, referencing specific software or methods used. Provide enough information for someone familiar with your field to replicate your analysis. This section demonstrates your analytical rigor and shows how you moved from raw data to meaningful interpretations. It's about showing, not just telling, how you arrived at your findings. Section 5. The Ethical Compass. Navigating Research Integrity. Ethical considerations are paramount in any research involving human participants. This section demonstrates your commitment to research integrity and outlines the steps you took to ensure ethical conduct. Did you obtain informed consent from your participants? Did you protect their anonymity and confidentiality? Did your research involve any potential harm or discomfort to participants? For our video game study, you would need to obtain informed consent from both teenagers and their parents or guardians. You would also need to assure them of anonymity and confidentiality regarding their data. Explain how you addressed ethical considerations throughout your research process. Mention any ethical review boards or committees that approved your research proposal. This section is crucial for demonstrating your ethical awareness and responsible conduct as a researcher. It assures readers that your research upholds the highest ethical standards. Section 6. Embracing limitations. Acknowledging boundaries. Every research study, no matter how well designed, has limitations. These are constraints that might have influenced your data collection or findings. Acknowledging them strengthens your research by demonstrating transparency and self-awareness. Perhaps your sample size was small, limiting the generalizability of your findings. Or maybe your study was limited to a specific geographical area or demographic group. In our example, a limitation could be that the study relies on self-reported data on gaming habits, which can be subjective and potentially inaccurate. Clearly state your limitations and discuss their potential impact on your findings. Don't shy away from them. Instead, use them as an opportunity to suggest avenues for future research. This section shows that you have critically evaluated your research and are aware of its boundaries. It adds to your credibility by presenting a balanced perspective of your study's strengths and limitations. Section 7. Connecting the dots. Summary and conclusion. The final section of Chapter 3 summarizes your research methodology and links it back to your research goals. It provides a concise overview of your approach and highlights its suitability for answering your research question. Briefly restate your research question: research design, data collection methods, data analysis techniques, ethical considerations, and limitations. Emphasize how each element contributed to answering your research question. For instance, you can conclude that your correlational design, using surveys and interviews, allowed you to explore the relationship between video games and attention span in teenagers while adhering to ethical guidelines. End this section by reiterating the significance of your chosen methodology and its contribution to your research. Section 8. Real-world analogies, making research relatable. Throughout Chapter 3, using real-world analogies can make complex research concepts more accessible and engaging for your readers. For example, you can compare choosing a research design to selecting the right tool for a job. Just as a hammer is suitable for driving nails but not for sawing wood, each research design has its specific strengths and is suited for particular research questions. Similarly, you can compare data analysis to solving a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece of data, like each puzzle piece, contributes to the bigger picture. Data analysis techniques help you assemble these pieces to reveal the complete image. By incorporating such analogies, you can make your methodology section more relatable and easier to understand, especially for readers who might not be familiar with research jargon. Section 9. Tips for clarity and consistency, ensuring a smooth flow. Clarity and consistency are crucial for a well-written Chapter 3. Use clear, concise language and avoid technical jargon unless necessary. Define any terms that might be unfamiliar to your readers. Maintain a logical flow throughout the chapter. Use headings and subheadings to organize your thoughts and guide the reader through your methodology. Use transition words and phrases to ensure a smooth flow between paragraphs and sections. Adopt a consistent verb tense, preferably the past tense, when describing your methodology. Since you're describing what you did during your research, the past tense is most appropriate. By prioritizing clarity, consistency, and a logical flow, you make your Chapter 3 accessible and easy to follow, ensuring your readers grasp the essence of your research methodology. Section 10. Visual aids, enhancing understanding. Incorporating visual aids like tables, charts, and diagrams can significantly enhance the clarity and impact of your methodology section. For instance, a table can effectively present your data collection methods, outlining each method's purpose, strengths, and limitations. A flowchart can illustrate your data analysis process, showing the steps you took from data collection to interpretation. When using visual aids, ensure they are relevant, clearly labeled, and easy to understand. Refer to them in your text to guide the reader and explain their significance. Visual aids can make your methodology section more engaging and easier to comprehend, breaking up large chunks of text and presenting information in a visually appealing manner. Section 11. Conclusion. Your research methodology, your roadmap to success. Mastering Chapter 3 of your thesis, the research methodology, is crucial for establishing your credibility as a researcher and ensuring the validity and reliability of your findings. By approaching this chapter with clarity, structure, and transparency, you provide a strong foundation for your research and instill confidence in your readers. Remember, your methodology is your roadmap. A well-articulated roadmap ensures a smoother journey towards answering your research question and making a valuable contribution to your field of study.